Okay, hey, hi. It's what is this show called? Oh, Before and After Movies.
That's right, yeah.
Welcome to Before and After Movies. We're kind of just making it up as we go along.
It only took us 5 minutes to come up with that title. Are you leading or am I?
I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead.
Shit. Well, hello and welcome to Film Posting Podcast.
Filmcast.
Podcasting.
Oh, yeah.
Filmcasting.
Filmcasting?
That's pod posting.
Cast filming.
People might think we're casting a film, though.
Yeah, well, let's say the Film Posting Podcast, patent pending.
Is it pending?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, it's not. The concept of the show is that we're going to talk about movies both before we go to see them and then after we see them. So we're gonna, mind equals blown.
Yeah.
And today we're gonna see The Shape of Water by Guillermo Del Toro.
If I told you about her, the princess without voice, what would I say?
There were a couple other options that we were looking at. One of them was The Post.
Well, you wanted to see The Post.
I want to see The Post for the cringe value of like Spielberg, Tom Hanks, and the world's highest paid community theater actress, as you put it.
God.
I'm going to try to flip this thing over now.
No, he's not. He's at a church convention in Townsville. They never. Oh, that's a load of Aussie bulldust. They're playing games with you.
They told me to go up to his room. They looked at me. They smiled. I insisted he be sent for.
Meryl Streep. I just feel like it's just such norminess that I just want to see it. I want to revel in the norminess of it.
Do you want to see all of those aging baby boomers walk out of the theater going,
"Oh, Tom Hanks
nice.
was so great.
Oh,
He's
you know,
always
that
just
Meryl
so good.
Streep,
Oh,
she's just,
she's
just,
I
tell you what,
she just looks so great for her age. Can you believe it?
and she is a class act. She
is.
is clean.
Yes.
And every time I see her in a movie, I think, oh, you know, who would love this?
She's an actress in the most classical sense.
And that's Steven Spielberg, you know.
Oh.
I remember him from back when I was
I always know when it's a
member of
Spielberg movie
society.
that I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to love it. I'm going to love it
Gotta
for 2
love it,
hours. I'm going to have my popcorn and
That's right.
So
And
I really do want to see it for that, but
yeah. I mean, it sounds entertaining in kind of a self-harming way.
we say all this to say we might go see The Post at some point, but The Shape of Water, in our area, art films are kind of few and far between. We're lucky to get them at all, and then if we get them, we're lucky if they stay there past a week. This one is on week 2 here, and I don't think it's guaranteed next Friday to still be there.
I would call it about a 50-50 shot at best.
At best.
Yeah.
So we're definitely going to go see Shape of Water. It's one I really want to see because I'm a huge fan of Pan's Labyrinth, and it looks like this might be a spiritual sequel to Pan's Labyrinth. What do you think of that?
I have not seen Pan's Labyrinth yet. And go ahead and give me the same spiel that everybody else has, because I need to watch it because I have met so many people with opinions that I respect when they give me a recommendation who have had nothing but good things to say about it, which I can totally understand. Guillermo Del Toro, very talented filmmaker. I love the Hellboy movies.
Yeah, same. Those are the only like comic book movies I really care all that
that are
much
actually
about.
great,
Yeah.
I would say. And I don't know about you, but I really enjoyed the first Pacific Rim.
I like Pacific Rim, but that brings up something that I want to say about Guillermo Del Toro, which always makes me a little trepidatious walking into one of his movies. And I get sometimes you just want to make the fun movie, but when it comes to Del Toro, like I either walk away from the movie having a profound experience of like, wow, that was one of the best things I've ever seen in all of cinema, and I feel like that is now an essential film, which is how I feel about Pan's Labyrinth. But then sometimes I can't remember anything about it. Like Crimson Peak, I saw that movie. I can't remember really anything about it. Same
I don't
with
even
Pacific
remember
Rim.
if I've seen.
It was very, very
generic, very safe.
Tough
movie.
to say because it is in terms of its plot structure and in terms of who it's appealing to, because Guillermo del Toro is always very creative with the visuals. Like,
Yeah.
the visuals are always knockout. They're fantastic. But, yeah, for me, it's kind of just a 50-50 shot. Now, from the trailers, I feel like this one is cut from a different cloth. You know, it's definitely going to lean on the upscale,
A little bit more mature. than-
Guillermo del Toro fable type storytelling than like something like Pacific Rim, which is why I have a lot of high hopes for it.
And one thing I've heard from a lot of people who've already seen it is that there seems to be a lot of draw from old 20s silent movies and even to some degree musicals, which I think is interesting. The main character is mute.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be, and the other main character is ostensibly swamp monster.
Yeah, like a Swamp Thing type of monster.
Yeah.
Some kind of something straight out of Guillermo del Toro's crazy imagination with monsters and things, which obviously is what he loves most about movies.
Is this the second movie of Paramount's monster universe?
Oh,
The Mummy
please,
was
God,
such
no.
was such an just unqualified
Talk about a
success.
guy to put in charge of that, though, man.
That would have been, that would have been great. What they should have done with that, actually, I've said this before and I'll say it again. They should have gotten Guillermo del Toro to do a soft reboot of The Mummy with Brendan Fraser.
Exactly.
That I would like to see that movie.
That's the
a
next
fun,
that
exciting movie.
Hollywood, you can have this one for free.
That's on us.
Here's how you revolutionize the next soft reboot. For once, cast the same actor again. Just be like, hey, Brendan Fraser was really good in The Mummy. Let's just reinvent everything else around The Mummy.
Yeah.
And put Brendan Fraser back in it again.
And I don't think Rachel Weisz is all that busy either. I mean,
she was good in those movies too.
Yeah.
Like, those are fine. Those movies were fine.
Yeah,
they're nothing earth-shattering.
No,
obviously,
but they were never trying to be.
No,
they were just
exactly.
It was a bill of goods that delivered.
It was something. Literally, it was something me and my dad went and saw on a Sunday afternoon with some popcorn and had a pretty damn good time watching.
It would have been your dad and I.
So, anyways, we're going to go see The Shape of Water. You kind of know a little bit about our thoughts. And I'm hoping it's just another great Guillermo del Toro Pan's Labyrinth type experience.
Yeah. Well, and I haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth yet, so this will be...
We'll get you on that soon.
I'm kind of going in with a more blank slate than
Yeah.
you are. So it's going to be kind of... We'll see if there's anything that comes of that.
Yeah.
In our
No problem. Maybe we'll
takeaway.
do a bonus episode where we do your before and after on that.
Oh yeah, that'd be that's a good idea.
We could consider doing that. So, anyways, we'll be back in one short cross dissolve.
Eliza, come on. Eliza, hurry.
She deaf?
Mute, sir. She can hear you.
You clean that lab, you get out.
This may very well be the most sensitive asset ever to be housed in this facility.
You may think that thing looks human. Stands on two legs, right? But we're created in the Lord's image. You don't think that's what the Lord looks like, do you?
This creature is intelligent, capable of language, of understanding emotions.
When he looks at me, he does not know how I am incomplete. He sees me as I am.
J'avoue, je n'ai bavé pas vous, mon amour. Avant d'avoir eu vent de vous.
The natives in the Amazon worshiped it like a god.
Get him out? What are you talking about? No.
We need to take it apart, learn how it works.
I don't want an intricate, beautiful thing destroyed.
We can do nothing. I'm sorry.
Don't do this, Eliza.
What is she saying?
Don't do this.
Oh, God, it's not even human. If I told you about her, what would I say? I wonder.
Okay, so we're back. We just saw The Shape of Water, Guillermo Del Toro's newest movie. It is about a mute woman who befriends an aquatic creature in a research lab and forms a bond and decides that she is going to help it escape, more or less, I think. Is that pretty much...
Yeah, it's the antagonist's goal to kind of kill it for experimentation, but she sees it as more than a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I think my TLDR takeaway from it is it was good. I liked it.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
To call it good. I wouldn't necessarily call it great.
I certainly wouldn't call it perfect. It definitely is not without its flaws. Which is kind of a bar. Again, you haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth, but for me, perfect is a bar that he is able to set. And he has set it with Pan's Labyrinth. So I think for me, it's tough for him to reach that bar because he really outdid himself with that movie. I was hoping that this one would maybe meet or exceed that, and I would say really it falls just short of it.
Just a little bit short. Now, that's not to say that the movie wasn't very good. The entire cast was excellent.
Yeah, I agree
Sally
with
Hopkins.
Hawkins.
She was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Had no dialogue, of course, through the movie, but a very expressive actor. I don't recall seeing her in a whole lot of much in the past, but I would like to see her wherever she winds up after this. She would be somebody that I would see a movie for her.
Right. Yeah, and I thought it was interesting too because I think so often is the case in Hollywood that if it's a action fantasy kind of movie like this was, you generally expect to see like a younger, hotter guy or woman in the role. And really...
Yeah, like a Charlize Theron or...
Yeah, or a Scarlett Johansson or somebody like that.
Yeah.
And really in this movie, you just have a modest... every woman who's like, I would guess she's in her mid-40s or something like that.
That's fair. She wears it well.
And she's literally a very quiet person.
Yeah. And I have to give the writer a lot of props for crafting a story where they're very good about making sure that she had a constant feed of decisions to make, and that the scenes were propelled by the consequences of those decisions.
Yeah.
And just like in the bare bones writing 101, it does that well. It was a little bit muddy in the first act, I want to say.
I think so too. So I guess now we'll just put a blanket spoiler alert on this review.
I think so.
Because I don't think I can't really talk about it without saying some certain key elements. So that's your warning. Here we go. But the movie, as much as I liked it, I kind of immediately have to give any movie that does this, is nothing personal just towards this movie, but the first thing you see is her waking up and cutting off an alarm clock.
Oh, yeah, the student film opener.
It's like, we've got to not start movies that way anymore.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know how to start my screenplay, so the character's going to get up and start their day.
Yeah, get up and start their day, and it's not... That's not interesting because the second thing that we see is her masturbating in a tub.
Yeah, literally she gets up, she gets undressed, she sets an egg timer, and she rubs one out in the tub. And the only reason we know that that's the case is because they made a point of showing that more than once.
Yeah.
It's like they wanted you to know that.
It's routine. Yeah. This is not a spontaneous thing, I don't think.
Which, I mean, I guess that's fine. It was one of those things that I thought was kind of... I wasn't sure I was even seeing it correctly the first time, because I was like, that's kind of a weird little detail.
Place to take this right off the bat.
Yeah, right off the bat, the movie goes there. It does kind of prime you a little bit for some later things to come.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's even by design. You got to kind of buy into a concept in this movie that's pretty outlandish.
Yeah. It is certainly It is certainly a high fantasy concept. And so,
real high and real fantasy.
Yeah.
I'd be really, really surprised if anybody who saw this movie, whether they liked it overall or disliked it overall, would come away not thinking every frame of this movie is gorgeous. I mean, it is shot.
It's a beautiful movie.
So well.
It had there was a lot of texture throughout the entire movie. It's just, there's a lot of rusty laboratories. You feel like you walk in there and you get that kind of damp, cold feeling. Her apartment has got grime on the walls. You get a feel for all of that, which is always something I appreciate in movies. Is just that take the time to do that set design. Really lends the world of the movie a lot of credibility. The music is fine. I didn't really notice it or not notice it, which I guess does its job.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure the score was composed by, and I'm probably not saying his name right, but Alejandro Desplat, I think is a Frenchman, who's one of the more famous composers that's active today. He's been doing it for quite a number of years, and he always kind of delivers great scores. There was nothing about the score that really stuck out to me either, but I think maybe that's probably by design. It all fit. It wasn't like it didn't fit.
Well, and the stuff that sticks out to you is show tunes, and that plays heavily into the movie. It takes place in the 1950s?
Somewhere in the 50s. It never explicitly tells you a date that I can remember. I don't think there was ever a subtitle that says, you know, this is the year that it takes place.
And it's not like they have the president on TV. I know they were watching that old show with the talking horse.
Hello, I'm Mr. Ed.
So whenever that period of time
it was black. Everybody had a black and white TV. Some movies were in color. Well, I think that was also very specific because it's something that, in a way, it feels like an alternate reality. Like maybe this could have really happened, but it obviously didn't.
More like a heightened reality.
Yeah. So it took place in some time in the past at some laboratory. I don't know what laboratory or where.
I fucking where.
But
I think they said it was Baltimore.
That makes sense. It could be.
There is an element of the Cold War, but let's jump into what happens so we can get to that point. Sally Hawkins, her character Eliza, works at this government facility doing stuff, and she's just a cleaning lady.
You clean that lab, you get out.
And one day she notices the swamp monster thing. They bring it in, and
super top secret. It's the most important subject they've ever studied.
This may very well be the most sensitive asset ever to be housed in this facility.
Of course.
Yeah, this government G-man in a suit.
Michael Shannon.
Who was excellent.
Yeah.
He brings the swamp monster in, and he's the hard-boiled CIA guy.
Yeah, and he is the antagonist. The movie does not even leave that in the shadows at all.
No.
They immediately, as soon as he comes out, you can tell he's the antagonist. I mean, you kind of know from the trailers, but then it's reflected in his character, which I thought was really interesting because the way Michael Shannon played this character and the way that the character was written was really unique because lately in cinema, I think we've come to expect more deeper villains that have a lot, that have some likable traits, but they're still the antagonist or they're still the villain. And what they managed to do in this movie was actually really not give him any redeemable qualities. Like, there's nothing about this guy that you like as a person while you still understood his motivations.
Yeah, they fleshed out why he does what he does. They make him they made it so we can empathize with him, but we don't sympathize with him. And it's a very fine balance, but it's one that I appreciate them making the effort to make because it's something that if I feel like the bad guy has something at stake, that is one of those little storytelling mechanisms that just turns that screw just a little bit more.
Yeah, and his motivation has more to do with the approval of his superiors. He's not trying to get $1 million or else he'll kill the thing. It's much deeper than that. It's the man. He is a very broken man in his personal life and in his professional life, and he's trying to escape it all. He's trying to settle down finally, after a life of kind of military moving around and all of this stuff. He's
chasing the American dream. He wants the nice house, the nice car.
Yeah, there's a scene where he literally buys a Cadillac. Like, you get the sense he's having a midlife crisis.
In fact, I would almost say that his motivations are spelled out clearer than Eliza's, because a lot of Eliza's motivations are pretty much inferred, kind of through the bathtub.
Yeah, she's
lonely.
She's very lonely, and she just has a friend.
Yeah,
who's played by Richard Jenkins, who is incredible as always.
Great actor. He's a delight in everything he's in.
Every time I see him, I just wish he was in more stuff.
Yeah, he needs to be in all the things. I don't even think he's headlined a movie that I can think of.
I'm trying to think, and I'm having a lot of trouble coming up with one.
Which, he's kind of been a career supporting actor, but it works really well for him. Every time I see him, I'm happy for it. I feel like he can elevate pretty much any scene that he's in. Just he's got that perfect touch.
Yeah,
and which definitely shines through here.
Yeah, and I would definitely say, just to cap that off, like every cast member in this movie was perfect. I mean, you didn't need.
There's
nobody I thought would be better. Octavia Spencer, who was
she was fantastic.
Yeah, she was a great ally to the main character. I got a sense that the good guys of the movie really did care about one another a lot. Even when Octavia Spencer's character didn't really know her neighbor's character, but as soon as they met, they were on the same page.
They kind of understood what was going on.
They didn't beat down this concept of, this thing is so weird and foreign and he's an aquatic monster thing. Like, Richard Jenkins' character took to him quite quickly.
Yeah, you have that scene that you kind of have to have where it's like, oh my god, this thing's weird. All right, we get it.
Yeah,
we're moving on.
They didn't waste a bunch of time on that.
We, the audience, have already been through that.
Right.
We don't need to sit there and rehash it every single time.
Especially when it's the movie we came to see.
Yeah.
Like, we get it.
Yeah, we get it.
Right past it, and the movie does a really good job of expediting past that and just getting through it.
Yeah.
And just kind of getting to the meat of it. That being said, though, I did feel like the first act went on longer than it needed to.
It did drag.
It really kind of...
There was a little bit more setup, or maybe more time taken towards the setup than I thought was necessary.
Yeah.
Because the heist is really where we get the ball rolling. Eliza decides she's going to break the creature out. She figures out how to do it. She gathers her allies. And then it's time to go. It took us probably
an hour.
45 minutes to an hour to get there.
And then, to be perfectly honest, this is another maybe shortcoming that I see in the movie, is that I wanted that caper to be more of a caper.
Yeah.
It felt like we got to it, and then in 5 minutes
it was over.
It was kind of over.
Yeah.
And they got him out, and
and the consequences were always just kind of minimal until the last 15 minutes. Like, it catches up very quickly.
Yeah.
The actual plot per se of the movie doesn't occupy a whole lot of screen time.
No, it doesn't.
It really doesn't, because not a whole lot happens.
It's more about her and her relationship toward it and its relationship toward her.
Yeah.
Which it gets a little
strange. There's gonna be some weird, creepy Rule 34 art of this movie.
Yeah,
I believe.
Definitely. Some definite Rule 34, probably like a porno spin-off of this movie.
Yeah.
Because we'll just get this out of the way. She bangs this, like they
bang
several
times.
Yeah. It's not explicit. There's only one real explicit sex scene in the movie with Michael Shannon's character, which is really another very creepy scene that's really telling of his character.
Deliberately, though. It's deliberately uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable, and it's really gross.
Because it just shows you what a gross guy he is.
Yeah.
She bangs the monster a couple of times.
And she really falls in love with it, and with her... I kind of sensed that would be the case going into it, and I was curious how they would handle it. And I would say, in the hands of another director, it might have really not worked.
No, it would have been very weird.
Like if Spielberg tried to make this movie,
oh god,
I don't think that would have gone well.
No.
But that's Guillermo Del Toro's thing is creating a really compelling fantasy with monsters. I mean, he generally that's what he comes to bat to do.
Yeah.
And and it just
and it's not like there are scenes of her and the monster just
right. It's not gross. Right. It's not gross. Right. It's not gross.
Yeah.
It's not. They do kind of. They imply it. They let you. They let you know.
There's just enough there to kind of make you go, Yeah. And then you get on with it. And that's even brought up.
Octavia Spencer's character brings it up, and I think she really asks the question that the audience is asking, which is how.
How?
And there's a very I won't even spoil that.
No, yeah. If you're still watching and you haven't seen the movie,
it's a funny scene. It's a funny scene.
Yeah.
And that's the comedic timing was really good throughout.
Generally
the movie.
on point.
The dialogue was really good. There's one exchange when the Russian scientist ally
we haven't even gotten to
which he was really well played, but his
character's a little weird. So there's in this laboratory with the monster, there's this scientist who wants to study the creature, wants to keep him alive, blah 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 blah,
for science. And
then we find out that he's a Russian sleeper agent for the Soviet Union, maybe something.
We think so.
And they have this weird little espionage subplot with him and two other guys that has no bearing on the rest of the plot at all,
on anything. And then it was so strange because, and granted it's a fantasy movie, but I just think that they would have had some other guy, like a middleman, to go and translate what the scientist was discovering to these guys.
Yeah,
and cut him out, to let him not know that there was this thing kind of going, this whole Russian plot going on. Because really, when you think about it, the scientist is the guy who ratted them all out, even though he didn't intend to do it,
Yeah,
so
but there's a million ways to do that without having this weird set of scenes that doesn't otherwise impact the plot.
Yeah.
That doesn't contribute to building the characters otherwise. I mean, they kind of builds his character, but there's a million ways to do that doesn't require spies.
Well, I was already sold on him as a character simply by virtue of he was a scientist who believed in science, and no, we shouldn't kill it for science. We should actually keep it alive.
Yeah. Not because you're in love with it, because
and see if we can't teach it.
There's an altruism at work.
Yeah.
And that makes us like the character, that makes us understand his motivations. We don't it's a very frustrating B plot. I mean, at least they didn't go free a bunch of horses from a casino. I mean, it wasn't that bad of a B plot. But it just still, by the same token, didn't need to be there. And it never really pays off.
No, except that I guess it kind of contributes to the third act conflict a little bit.
A little bit.
But if anything, not having that in there would have made the third act maybe a little less convoluted, right?
Yeah, it gets a little bit...
It gets a little bit third acty. It gets a little bit like final boss in a comic book movie, third acty.
Yeah, where events just start piling on.
Yeah, and especially the scene, especially like the last scene where they kind of die, I guess.
Yeah, whatever it is. So they...
Because I still don't know.
The monster's been hanging out at her house. She's got this plan that she's going to release it into the ocean, I guess, on a certain day because reasons. Don't worry about why. And so they're finally at that point, and the bad guy, Mr. CIA man, I can't remember his name in the movie.
Me neither.
His character's name, whatever, it doesn't matter, finally catches up with them, and they both get shot. And turns out the monster has healing powers. Don't worry, it's actually not that much of a stretch by that point.
No, it's well established.
They build up pretty well to that, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's actually a pretty interesting concept because he he healed like Eliza and her neighbor friend, but
he doesn't heal the CIA guy.
CIA guy. His fingers are rotting off at the bone by the end of it. There's a lot of like cool little things about it like that that I liked. Some things I really didn't like about the movie. We kind of talked about the third act convoluted plot and the Russian and the drawbacks of the Russian scientist character. I think another drawback to the movie for me is that there's a lot of themes expressed in dialogue to the audience, like directly to the audience. Like a man is the CIA's general boss.
Yeah, the general.
They have this whole back and forth of dialogue about what is a man, what makes a man,
and it's pretty much telling us, the audience, like, this is what the CIA guy is all about,
right?
And it's like, okay, first off, a couple things. One, we already knew because you already showed us, without having to tell us.
Like,
you treated us like smart viewers. The second of all, this is dumb, and it stops the motion of the film altogether.
Yeah, and I'm not one of those people that thinks that you need to always be having realistic dialogue in movies, because it is a performance piece, but just nobody's talking to each other in this manner.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking to each other in a way that really you're talking to the audience.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that.
The worst example of that is actually, unfortunately, Richard Jenkins, I think.
Oh, in the scene with where he's babysitting.
He's babysitting the monster in the bathtub.
Yeah.
And he literally he can't communicate with it, so he just starts talking at it. It being the audience.
Yeah, because they can't understand him either.
And he says something that we've seen the whole time is, I'm a lonely old man, and time moves pretty fast.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, good, we already knew that, but I'm glad you told us that, like, I'm a toddler.
Right.
In a rated R movie. Yeah, thanks for treating me like an idiot. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so the themes stated through dialogue. I'm over movies that do that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a little bit muddied by the fact that there's a large influence from old-timey musicals in this movie. They're on TV in the background. They live over a theater that's playing like
the classics.
The classic, what was it? Mardi Gras musical.
Yeah. I think, was that Cleopatra that was in?
Yeah, there was something like that. One of those old-timey movies that used to be very vivid, and we would sing songs about our feelings, because that was kind of the mode of movie making back then. I don't really feel like just making that reference was enough to justify doing it in this movie. But by the same token, it's weird. It's really strange, because one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Eliza has this dream sequence where she breaks into song.
Yeah.
And it goes off, it turns black and white, and then she floats away onto
It becomes a
big
Busby
Broadway
Berkeley
stage.
movie.
Yeah, and it's really nice. She's dancing with the monster and singing about her feelings.
Yeah.
Paradoxically enough, that worked really well, I thought. Because it's the character who can't talk.
Right, and that answered my question that I brought up in the before, too, was she ever going to break that silence? And
that's right, yeah.
I'll be honest, it did it in a way that was much better than anything I could have conceived of, because it wasn't necessarily a plot point that let her regain her voice, but it was just merely her imagination.
Her inner monologue.
Her fantasy world that she was kind of escaping into for a moment. And I like that they didn't make her a pithy character who needs to escape into dreamland to realize her wishes.
Yeah.
She was very proactive the whole time, and she was very, like, goal-minded.
Yeah, and she's, and outside of the world of the plot, she's not much of a Mary Sue. She's just an eccentric girl.
Yeah.
She just has her own little weird oddities that everybody either puts up with or finds endearing.
Mm-hmm.
And there was kind of a moment in the first act where I was thinking, like, uh-oh, she doesn't have any flaws. But then it scaled that back a little bit. And I was pretty glad to see that, because I don't want to see perfect people.
Right.
You should never. And I'm sorry, but just not having a voice doesn't cut it. Like, you need flaws of character.
No, and I thought it was really interesting too, because I liked one thing I noticed about her not having a voice is that wasn't like a conflict to me as in the audience at all. Like she was so proactive. It was in a weird way. I think it was like almost Guillermo Del Toro saying you don't need dialogue to make a great movie, and you don't need dialogue to tell a really compelling story. In that sense, it was a real homage to the kind of the old silent movies, or the movies that were just singing because they knew how to sync up a record to the thing, but they didn't talk the rest of the time because they still didn't have that technology or whatever the case. There was definitely a little bit of love letter to cinema in this, which I can always appreciate.
That's
it's Quentin Tarantino's whole bread and butter.
Yeah. I mean, Inglourious Basterds is basically a bunch of movies chained into one movie.
Yeah.
But...
And so it had that element to it. I liked that. Another thing I didn't like, just to move things along, is... So, obviously, if you've seen the movie, or even if you've just seen the trailer, you know that there's a goodly chunk of this movie is really kind of, its subtext is about accepting things that are wildly different from you, and maybe even going a step further and loving things that are totally different from you. Obviously, that plays into our own real society a lot. That's a theme that's very prevalent that people are kind
fairly
of
contemporary
always
issue.
dealing with. It's in the headlines all the time right now. Got a slight issue with the way that this movie treated that, and that is,
I think I know which scene you're talking about.
It seems like a real go-to crutch that there's a scene in a movie, at some point in the movie pretty early on, you pick up pretty easily on the fact that Richard Jenkins' character is at least bisexual, if not just gay. And he has a crush on a guy who serves pies at a diner. And they go in and they get these pies frequently, and it's, not... He shoves all the pies in his refrigerator. So he's going in there to see...
They make it a point to show you that the reason he goes is to talk to this guy.
And that's fine. That's great. It gets to the scene where, of course, he and the... restaurateur, the pie man, are both alone in the restaurant and sitting there making small talk, and of course Richard Jenkins reaches his hand and says, I'd like to get to know you a little better, and the guy just, whoa, what do you think this is, guy? And
this is a family restaurant, and I'm not like one of you.
Right, and then in the same breath, literally,
I mean, probably not 5 seconds later,
a black couple walks in about to sit at the counter, and he gets up from this conflict, which has not yet resolved itself, to go and tell the black people that just walked in to get out, and they can't sit there. And I want to be really clear about this. I'm not saying that this kind of thing doesn't happen in real life, that like maybe somebody breaks out of their shell a little bit, they reveal that they're homosexual and that they have feelings for somebody else, and they
reveal that they're black.
Yeah, or they're met with hostility because of that. That can really happen. I understand that. My issue is, this is almost verbatim. We have seen this scene in so
many movies.
Movies. And it's always like that. Like, it's always just like, I'm gay and I can't be accepted.
Yeah, think back to like William H. Macy in
Magnolia. It's almost the exact
Boogie
same
Nights.
thing. No, Magnolia.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think it was both, actually.
No, William H. Macy was just constantly getting cucked in
Oh,
Boogie
that's
Nights.
right. Yeah.
Whereas in Magnolia, he was in love with Brad the bartender.
That's right.
So,
but that's like, that is the go-to social acceptance card that gets played.
Yeah.
It's like the draw 4 Uno card. It's the first one on the table.
So my issue isn't with that these kind of things might happen, but my issue is with the way that the movie treated it. Like, let's cram it all into one scene, let's plow straight through this. And you're just not doing, and it just felt so two-dimensional and phony.
Well, and the problem too is that the whole movie is about that, so you're taking your time to really get into the issue and tiptoe up to it. You're meeting a swamp monster you don't understand,
Right.
and you're learning that it's okay, you're okay, everybody's okay, there's room for love. And then this wrecking ball just shows up for this one scene that just hits you over the head with the message with the sledgehammer.
And there's just no nuance to this restaurateur's character. Like, he just
instantly
in 2
turns
seconds,
into an
he's just a
asshole.
complete shithead,
Yeah.
total bigot, total racist. No, I said, you could just take
like-
take the scene out of the movie. It really wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
So,
and that I think is that to me is a substantial demerit, because that was a really frustrating scene.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't ruin the movie for me, but it's...
You show me, look, I'll put it this way. If you want to make a movie about Richard Jenkins, an older man being gay in the 50s, I want to see that movie. That's
a good standalone,
because that immediately
concept.
paints all the conflicts in my mind. Well, it was the 50s, first
It's
off.
the 50s, so society's not going to accept him.
Yeah.
He's got to keep it a secret. Is the person he's in love with, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You could go any number of directions with that.
Actually, there's a movie called Far From Heaven with Dennis Haysbert that kind of does that. And it's him and Julianne Moore. And it's a really, really good... It's actually about... Dennis Haysbert and Julianne Moore, so it's an interracial relationship, but Julianne Moore's husband was caught having a homosexual affair. So it's really interesting.
There's a lot going on there. Yeah.
But it's about that.
Yeah.
Specifically, it's about race, it's about homosexuality, it's about
So
that.
wait, let me ask a question about that movie then. Does it stop for 10 minutes so that they can break a sea creature out of a lab and learn to accept it?
No, because it was specifically about those themes of race and homosexuality. And in this movie, the point of having, to me anyways, the point of having a mythical sea creature, which is a biological anomaly to us in real life, is that,
We
like
don't
you said,
understand
it can apply to every walk
It's a
of
blank
life.
slate.
It's a totally blank slate with which you can look at how do we form connections with each other. Why do we love something? Why do we hate something? And, by the way, I'm fine with movies not answering the question for me. I'm fine with the movie leaving me to think about it afterwards. And I feel like that's what the movie doesn't do. It doesn't really leave me with anything to ponder after it.
Not really, no. I mean, love conquers all. Learn to accept things. There's no questions. There's nothing left for me to do after the movie. And by that, I mean, I like movies that leave me having to chew on it and form my own opinion, my own thesis. And if a movie doesn't want to do that, I guess that's fine. But I feel like great movies will do that.
Yeah.
Will treat you like a reasoning, smart grown-up who can take some time in your own brain on the car ride home to be like, I wonder how this and that and this and that apply to me.
Yeah.
And
the movies that do that well, I really want to go and immediately see again.
Yeah, to see if the movie can help you along that path.
And I would say I would certainly watch this movie again, but I don't have any aching need to see it again.
Yeah, there's no
not in the way
lingering...
I hate to honestly, it's almost unfair for me to just hold Guillermo Del Toro to the Pan's Labyrinth standard forever.
It's the burden of expectation.
But it really that movie is so timeless, and I could watch it 30 more times, and it's just perfect. So this movie didn't really hit that level for me.
It is interesting though that you've seen Pan's Labyrinth and obviously you liked it. I've never seen Pan's Labyrinth, and people always look at me like a dog that's just been shown a card trick because I haven't. But our takeaway from the movie isn't really different because of it.
No. I think
we're on the same page. Yeah, we're on the same page. Yeah, we're on the same page. But for you, I think it's just that you had kind of that burden of expectation. Like, that you thought he was capable of doing it.
It's possible, but it wasn't Crimson Peak or Pacific Rim either. There was a lot more
I
substance
like Pacific
here.
Rim. Come on.
There's
nothing wrong with Pacific.
No, there's nothing wrong with either of those movies, really. But it's there's just a lot more substance here than with those ones.
I would definitely put this above Crimson Peak and...
Yeah. No, there's nothing... I'm not one of these guys
Rim.
that... I like Hollywood blockbusters just as much as I like an art film. I think at the end of the day, Guillermo Del Toro loves cinema and he loves monsters, and this was a very good blend of the two.
Yeah.
The criticisms aside, I would strongly recommend the movie.
No, I absolutely would too. I don't know, how would you score this one?
Let's see. I would score it with 4 kittens, but one of them has its head eaten off by the
swamp monster.
By the swamp monster. So 3 kittens with heads and 1 without a head. So like a 3 out of 4.
A 3 out of 4.
Alive cats.
Alive cats.
A 1 to 4 dead cat ratio. Right?
Okay. Yeah. 1 to 3. Yeah. No, that's fair. I would have to give it about a 5 eggs out of 7. I would say.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. I mean, not perfect, but good. So yeah.
Okay, so that is our take on The Shape of Water.
For what it's worth.
And what else is coming up here pretty soon? We've got Phantom Thread comes out soon.
Isle of Dogs.
I cannot wait.
That's actually my number 1 right now.
Phantom Thread
it's not that I don't. It's not that I am not extremely excited for Phantom Thread and Daniel Day-Lewis last movie, all that, but I have watched the Isle of Dogs trailer
like a million times.
So many fucking times. And it's still like every time we were just getting into our seats when the trailer for it was playing, and I was sitting like, it's gonna be a fight.
Yeah, I can quote almost the whole thing. I've seen, like, I can sing the song, I've lost all my pride. And yeah, I just really am so psyched about that movie. We're gonna actually go back to the past in this show as well.
Yeah, we're gonna reach back. I haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth, so I think we should do.
We might just do another episode, another Guillermo del Toro monster fantasy episode, and have him see that and all.
And then I'll pick one for you to watch.
Yeah, and regardless, we'll
see you
We'll see you before and after another movie real soon.
Hey! Like, comment, subscribe.